There was a store in your town where the air smelled like new rubber tires. And at Christmas, it smelled like tires and bicycle chrome. And if you are over 50 and grew up in a small American town, your heart just moved because you know exactly which store. It stood on Main Street between the bank and the Five and Dime. It sold your father his spark plugs and his motor oil, his shotgun shells and his radio, and one December, on layaway, paid off $2 at a time, it sold him the bicycle that changed your life. There were thousands of these stores in towns too small for anything else, and most of them were owned by a neighbor. The sign said Western Auto. The man who founded it started with $5, built one of the biggest retail networks in America, and then gave nearly all of it away. And the thing he bought with the money is more famous today than the store ever was. This is that story. You went in with your father because Western Auto was a father and son store the way the beauty parlor belonged to your mother. Saturday morning, the bell on the door, and that smell hit you first every single time. Fresh rubber from the wall of tires, motor oil, cardboard, a little gun oil from the sporting goods counter and back. It was the smell of maintenance, of a man keeping his equipment right. And to this day, if you walk past a tire rack, you are 8 years old again. Your father moved through the aisles like a man in his own workshop. Points and plugs for the Ford, a can of Wizard motor oil, the house brand because the house brand was fine and he would tell you so, a Davis tire if the winter had been hard. And the man behind the counter knew him, knew the car, remembered what he bought last time because the man behind the counter was not an employee sent from somewhere. In most towns, he was the owner. His family ate on what that store earned. His kids went to school with you. And up front, by the window, where every kid in town could see them from the sidewalk, stood the bicycles. The Western Flyer. Chrome fenders, painted tank, a headlight, a chain guard, red and cream, the most beautiful machine an 8-year-old had ever seen. And every fall you began the campaign. You walked past that window slow. You mentioned it at supper. You were extra good in November. Because here is how a working family bought Christmas in 1955. Layaway. In October, your mother or father went in quietly and put $1 down, and the bike went into the back room with the tag on it. And every Friday, payday, someone stopped in and paid a little more against it. $1 here, $2 there, 8 or 10 weeks running. No credit card, no interest. Just a promise kept in small installments between neighbors. And on Christmas morning, there it stood by the tree, tagged and shining, paid in full, and you had no idea, none, that it had been sitting 80 feet from you at the Western Auto for 2 months while your father whittled it down $2 at a time. Some of you found this out decades later and had to sit down. That bike was not just a bike. It was 10 weeks of a man's Fridays. One quick word before the founder, because the founder is the twist in this one. If this store is coming back to you, the tire smell, the window with the bikes, take 1 second and subscribe. Because what the $5 man did with his fortune is a better ending than any store deserves. All right, Kansas City, 1909. One more thing about the store itself, because it explains everything that comes later. Western Auto existed because in a small town, the car had to live. The nearest dealer might be 40 miles. Money was short, and a man fixed his own vehicle in his own yard on Saturday with his boy handing him wrenches, and Western Auto was where Saturday started. It sold the parts, the manuals, the tools, and a little of everything else a town needed. Radios, washing machine belts, fishing tackle, a shotgun before deer season. It was the general store of the machine age, not the cheapest store in America, the nearest one. And in a small town, the nearest honest store is worth more than the cheapest distant one, right up until the day it is not. And that day is coming in this story. That was the store. Now the $5 man, the empire of small towns, and the 3 quiet blows that took the sign down. In 1909, in Kansas City, Missouri, a young bookkeeper named George Pepperdine noticed something about the Model T that Henry Ford was about to sell to the whole country. It broke constantly, and the parts were sold at dealer prices, and most of America did not live near a dealer. Pepperdine started a mail-order business selling Model T parts, cheaper than the dealer, delivered anywhere. He started it, the story goes, with about $5 in capital, a desk and some catalogs, and the timing was perfect the way A&W's timing with Prohibition was perfect, because Ford was about to put 15 million Model Ts on American roads, every one of them held together by a farmer with a wrench. The catalogs poured out and the orders poured in, and the parts stores followed, and by mid-century, Western Auto stood in thousands of American towns. But the real genius came in 1935, in the middle of the Depression, when the company began franchising associate stores. Here's what that meant. A man in a town of 2,000 people, a town no chain would ever bother with, could put up modest money and get the Western Auto name, the buying power, the catalog, the credit, and become a merchant on his own main street. Owner operated, said the sign, and it was true. At the peak, there were thousands of these associate stores, far more than the company-owned ones, a chain that was somehow also a network of independent small-town businessmen. It was one of the great franchising ideas in American history, invented years before McDonald's existed, and it put an anchor store in towns that had nothing else, and the anchor held for 60 years. And George Pepperdine himself. By the 1930s, the bookkeeper was one of the wealthy men of the American West, and he had a conviction that would sound invented if it were not documented. He believed the money was not really his. In 1937, he took the bulk of his fortune and founded a small Christian liberal arts college in Los Angeles, George Pepperdine College, and he kept giving until, late in life, the man who built Western Auto had given essentially all of it away and said plainly that he regretted none of it. He died in 1962 with almost nothing. The college he planted on a hill in Malibu is Pepperdine University, and its name is known around the world today by millions of people who could not tell you where the money came from. It came from spark plugs. It came from your father's Saturday mornings. Every diploma on that Malibu hillside traces back to a wall of tires in a small American town. One quick thing before the fall, because the fall of this one is quiet, and the quiet ones hurt worse. If this story has earned it, tap the like button. It helps a small channel keep the lights on. All right, 3 blows. The first blow came from the cars themselves. The whole reason Western Auto existed was that cars were simple enough for their owners to fix. Points, plugs, condensers, a timing light, a Saturday. Then through the 1970s and 1980s, the engine compartment filled up with electronics and emissions gear and sealed components, and the shade tree mechanic began to go the way of the TV repairman. And for the same reason, the customer did not stop loving the store. The customer stopped doing the thing the store was for. When the Saturday repair died, the store lost its Saturday. The second blow was the new specialists. AutoZone and its kind arrived with a colder, sharper version of the parts business, huge inventories, computerized lookup, discount prices, no bicycles, no shotguns, no layaway, no soul, and no pretense of being anything but a parts warehouse with a register. Steelman them, because they earned it. They were better at parts, deeper stock, lower prices, faster answers. Western Auto was a general store competing against the specialist, and the specialist wins the category every time. And Walmart was landing outside those same small towns in the same years, taking the radios and the fishing tackle and the toys, the everything else that had padded the Western auto ledger. The store was being eaten from both ends, the parts by the specialists, the general goods by the discounters, and what was left in the middle was a smell and a memory. The third blow was the ownership carousel, and you know this song by now. Beneficial, a finance company, bought Western Auto in 1961. A buyout firm took it in 1985. Sears, of all companies, bought it in 1988. A drowning giant purchasing a drowning store, and ran it without conviction for a decade. And in 1998 sold it off to Advance Auto Parts, which wanted the real estate and the parts counters and had no use whatsoever for the name. And so the signs came down. No bankruptcy, no headline, no last day covered on the evening news. A town would simply notice one spring that the Western Auto was now in Advance, that the bikes were gone from the window, and that nobody had asked. Thousands of main streets, one quiet sign change at a time. The company was never killed. It was absorbed, which is worse because there was never even a day to mourn. And yet, in Kansas City, high over the old headquarters, the enormous rooftop sign, Western Auto, in letters the size of a man, still stands, restored and relit because the city could not bear to lose it, glowing over a building full of apartments. A handful of independent stores in tiny southern and midwestern towns, old associate owners who never quit, kept the name over the door for years after the company dissolved, selling parts to the last men who fixed their own trucks. And the Western Flyer bicycles, the layaway bikes, the 10 weeks of Fridays bikes are collector items now, restored to their chrome and cream and sold for many hundreds of dollars to gray-haired men who are not really buying a bicycle. They are buying a December morning. Western Auto was what an economy looks like when it is built out of neighbors. The owner knew your car, the layaway was interest-free, and the profits ended up as a university on a hill. We replaced it with something faster and cheaper in every measurable way, and the measurements are not wrong. But stand under that Kansas City sign some evening and try to name the thing we lost, and you will find the word is not inventory. The word is nearest. We lost the store that was near. So tell me down in the comments, was there a Western Auto on your main street and who ran it? Because in a small town, everybody knew the owner's name, and I want to hear it said one more time. Tell me about the Western Flyer, the color, the tank, the Christmas you got it, and whether you found out about the layaway years later, and if that bike or your father's wizard tools might still be hanging in a barn or a garage somewhere. Go look this weekend. I will be here when you get back. I read every single comment.